The Scythe, one of the most underrated weapons in Helldivers 2. It deals a lot of damage over time, but most importantly, it is extremely accurate. My name is Red Monster Thing, but you can call me Red. And today, let's dive into why the Scythe is one of the most powerful primaries in Helldivers 2, if you can aim. Now, before I dive into why this weapon is so good, I should first tell you how to add this thing to your arsenal. To acquire the Scythe, first you need to purchase it for 30 medals from the 5th page of the Helldivers Mobilize Warbond. Helldivers Mobilize is the free warbond that is already included with the game. 30 medals certainly doesn't seem like a lot, however, because the Scythe is on the 5th page, that means you'll need to spend 150 Warbond medals just to be able to buy this weapon, which means in total, you'll be spending about 180 medals just to get it. Admittedly, after playing the game for long enough time, this isn't going to be a huge grind. If you have difficulty 10 unlocked, that is. Because if you're a brand new player, you might have to play the game for a much longer time or wait until we start winning some major orders before you can get your hands on that many medals. Luckily, no IRL currency or super credit grinding is required to get the warbond. Unlike most things we talk about on this channel, all you have to do to get the Scythe is simply play the game however you want. You will eventually get enough medals. It's really not as daunting as it first may seem. Now, after acquiring this weapon, you'll notice that it has a damage of 350. But, as always, this number can be kind of misleading. Because this is measured in damage per second, that means you won't just deal 350 damage straight away, you'll have to hold it down for at least a second. And yes, I know most of you are gamers and already know what DPS stands for, but you can never be too thorough. It has light armor penetration, and in some ways, it's higher. But we'll get into that soon. The other misleading component of this weapon is its hidden stats. I should really say components, since there are multiple hidden stats that are important for us to look at. First being the durable damage, which is at 70. It's a very complicated system, but in the simplest way I can explain it, durable damage is a balancing lever to make certain weapons deal less damage when attacking armor. Usually, at least. There are definitely some enemies that shouldn't be as durable as they are. But the next hidden stat is the fire damage, which is both a standard DPS of 100 and durable DPS of 100. And the fire damage is AP4, or heavy armor pen. In plain terms, this means that you'll be doing full damage as soon as you set an enemy on fire, as long as they aren't fire resistant, which again is hindered by annoying hidden systems in this game. To simplify, bots are harder to set on fire and take less damage from it, and ironically, most bugs too, despite being literally made of space oil. Each enemy has a different fire resistance level, which is broken up by two factors: how hard they are to set on fire, and how much fire damage they take. So even if the Scythe here says it deals 100 damage per second, this isn't exactly true. Specific enemies have a fire multiplier, which means your fire actually does more damage. For example, a warrior is resistant to fire, but it has a 0.8 modifier, but a devastator is weak to fire because it has a 1.25 modifier, which I believe that this means the devastator is taking 25% more fire damage, while the warrior is taking 20% less, which is incredibly ironic when you think about it, since the bugs are made of space oil and devastators are metal. Devastators do have more health though, so this is likely a balancing lever to make certain weapons like the Scythe feel more consistent. Either way, the Scythe combined with all of these damage effects makes it extremely strong, since these effects stack. So while you're dealing standard DPS damage, the main health of the enemy is being whittled down by the fire. And in some cases, especially with chaff units like troopers or voteless, being set on fire alone is enough to kill them. Okay, that was a lot to unpack, and we still have much more to talk about. The next thing we have to talk about is its ammo, which once again is kind of misleading. You have a charge that gets expended over time, and you start with 4 spare mags, which obviously doesn't seem like a lot, but once again, hidden systems makes this weapon even more complicated. This weapon has an overheat mechanic, where if you shoot for too long, the weapon will overheat and deplete the weapon charge. And because this weapon is a las energy weapon, it actually has inexhaustible ammo. In its weapon description, it says, "A laser rifle firing a continuous beam does not need reloading, but if it overheats, a new heatsink must be fitted, which in plain terms means that unless you overheat the weapon, you will never run out of ammo. This is true with all las weapons, so long as you time your shots and let your weapon cool down. But what it doesn't tell you in the armory is how long you can shoot this weapon for, which is about 8 seconds of firing before it overheats. But this can be made even easier with the high capacity heat sink you can equip with the weapon customization. With this mod, it goes from 8 seconds to 12 seconds. It's one of the few impactful mods we have for a primary weapon because it makes this weapon even more powerful than it used to be. But that's not all. It has 65 ergonomics, which means this weapon is extremely easy to handle and aim. Its recoil is 0, which for obvious reasons is a good thing. With these stats, that basically means that this weapon is extremely precise, and this only benefits longtime players. But one thing it doesn't really show you is that this weapon has a 1000 meter range, and because it's a las weapon, it doesn't have damage fall off, nor bullet drop. It just points exactly where you want it to do. So even without a 10x scope, which it should have, you can snipe out precise targets from the complete opposite side of the map. Okay, that's about all I have to say for stats. At least what I think are the important ones. And if you're enjoying this video, please consider leaving a like, or if you're on mobile, hype the video. It's actually a lot of effort making these videos for you guys, so I appreciate the support. If you're not already, please subscribe, and once we hit 100k, I'll tell you what my favorite color is. Now, it's time to break down the playstyle of this weapon. The Scythe is understandably best used in more skilled hands. Because of its light pen rating, you can only effectively attack units with light armor or less. And while the fire damage is AP4, it literally doesn't change anything about the actual penetration of the weapon. So, you're restricted to chaff units and targeting weak points. But what if I told you this is all just a simple misconception? Because as much people like to say this weapon has a high skill curve, it really doesn't. While it's still true this weapon is best used in more skilled hands, because, well, all weapons are, it does not require a lot of skill in order to use effectively. Yes, you need to watch the heat, and yes, you need to aim for light armored weak spots. But that's it. Thanks to its handling, this is easily the most forgiving light pen primary in the game. And thanks to its fire damage, it can even melt bots. It's by far the most accurate primary we have that is only limited by its choice of scope. While a 10x scope would not be OP, it would greatly increase this weapon's effectiveness. I have to say, this is probably the easiest weapon to buff in the game because all you need to do is add an option to equip a 10x scope. With this weapon, you'll primarily be aiming at chaff and medium units. Even on the bug front, it's not too bad at aiming at the Hive Guard weak spot. And considering how fast-paced Helldivers 2 can be at sometimes, having a weapon this reliable when it comes to aiming at weak spots changes the whole game. This weapon complements loadouts that focus more on anti-tank since it can handle the rest. And while I personally think this weapon makes taking other sidearms redundant, you can take the Talon for emergency situations where you need to spam medium armor pen. It's effective on Squids, making it one of the better options for voteless and flesh mobs, and surprisingly, not bad against watchers or overseers. You don't have to aim for weak spots on a horde of voteless, just make sure the laser at least brushes through most of the enemies in your path. For flesh mobs, you can use the laser to pop heads while letting the fire cook them from the inside out. While it's not the best for overseers, that fire damage really does help. On the Illuminate, the only thing it lacks is the ability to deal with heavier units, and because it isn't medium pen, it can't headshot an overseer. Don't take this against the appropriators though. On the bugs, this gun is a lot more challenging to use. Certainly, I wouldn't say this weapon is bad on the bugs. It's pretty good at dealing with shriekers, but thanks to its somewhat slow DPS, this weapon is kind of weak against an army of bugs. The fire, however, more than makes up for it on most units. The Scythe is even a competent option against the new Gloom strain. While unable to target heavier units, it's still a pretty solid option against the bugs. Now, bots is where I personally believe the Scythe is best used. Its precision is rewarded thanks to the bots having well-placed weak spots like Devastator heads. It's also extremely good at clearing out hordes of troopers. The best part is that with the fire damage, you can melt Devastators without even aiming at their head. go for the pelvis, arms, or legs, and let the fire slowly do the rest while never running out of ammo. It's also not too bad against enemies like rocket striders. Seriously, this weapon is a precision king on the bot front, and even if you aren't the best at aiming, it can feel like you're using a light pen version of the coyote. It seriously gets slept on so much on this front. But anyways, that's all I have to say about the Scythe and Helldivers 2. If you enjoyed this video, be sure to leave a like, and if you want to see more content like this, be sure to subscribe. It helps a ton, and it means a lot.